All right, it is May 13th, 2009 at 1:22 p.m. at the Mooresville Public Library. This is the Fire Department Oral History Interview number 10 with
Erskine Smith.
Okay. All right, tell us how you got started with the fire department.
Well, I guess it was sort of an afterthought. I had been involved in the late 70s. I actually took my EMT while I was at Appalachian last quarter or last semester. And then spent the summer out at the lake and I worked a little bit. I'd worked a little bit with the Linville Volunteer Fire Department up there on some special events. And while I was at Appalachian, and then spent a little bit of time with the Catawba Rescue Squad and those folks out there while I was working at Camp Dogwood. But I came to the fire department, I guess, later. I was involved with the rescue squad first with my EMT background and spent most of my time at wrecks and fires that way through the rescue squad, given the support that the rescue squad does for the fire department back then. So it was just sort of a natural involvement after I was with the same people with the rescue squad. They're in the fire department back then, and so it just kind of naturally that I just migrated over and eventually joined the fire department.
Okay. Do you remember your first fire?
No, I understand everybody else remembers their first fire, but I really don't remember the first fire that I went on. I guess because I was with the rescue squad, I went to most of the fires.
Yeah.
That I really didn't. It really doesn't stick in my mind. The first one I went to, I can remember, some of the early ones. I remember one on McClellan Street, not McClellan, Cabarrus Avenue that I went in. Actually, Bobby Compton went in before me, and we couldn't see. We were crawling around in there, and I lost Bobby about halfway into the fire, and the next thing I know, the ceiling and the insulation, all that kind of stuff's falling down. I can't find Bobby. Next thing I know, he's gone out the window, and I'm thinking, what am I doing in here? But so that was one of the first ones I remember going. I think it was Leonard McLaughlin's house actually, but I think that was one of the first ones I remember.
What's one or some of your most memorable moments?
Well, that was probably one of them. I remember one over on Iredell Avenue, and it was cold, and everything was freezing, and it was an old tin roof, and I remember Dean Baker up on the roof, and it was slick, and I remember him trying to chop a hole in that tin roof with that axe, and it was and he hit it one time and lost the whole axe, went down in the fire, and I thought Pete was going to have former fire chief Pete Penn was going to have a heart attack because it was one of those brand new axe handles, and he didn't want to lose that axe. And through that, so another one I remember, I was of course working for the town and carried the pager, and I was in the town board meeting, and the pager went off, and Mayor Knox gave me one of those kind of cut that thing off look, and until it said it was the Public Works garage, and he said, "You better go." And so I went out, and it was one of the first few times that I can ever remember really riding on the back of the tail gunner on the fire department. And I guess Melvin was driving, which was another scary thought. At that point, when we hit the railroad tracks, I don't think we ever hit anything, but I don't think we hit the brakes, we just hit the gas. But going to that fire was probably one that Public Works and Melvin running in and out of there trying to drive as many vehicles out of there as he could with that thing going. So. And of course, everybody remembers the downtown fire, but those are probably some of the more memorable ones than I can remember. And I can remember some that actually went to where there was fatalities involved, and those are not always pleasant memories, but I still remember most of them, as I do most of the rescue squad calls where the fatalities take place. Every time I go by a place, it kind of pops in my mind that somebody died at this spot or that intersection or whatever. But I guess it's one of those things everybody has in their head that do it all the time.
Erskine also liked climbing ladders.
Yeah, ladders were not my thing. And we used to always have a call, seems like when Draymore or Superb or one of those was happening, and we always had to climb that big ladder up the side of that thing, and my nose was about 2 inches from the rung, climbing up there, and then getting up there, and of course, since I was wearing glasses at that time and had the mask on and everything else, I couldn't see anything. I was scared I was going to end up falling in a hole or falling off the side of the roof with that because I couldn't see. It was dark or whatever. But yeah, ladders were never mine. I always told them I was a ground firefighter. That was one of my favorite things.
Let's see. Oh, a lot of the guys have been talking about some of their favorite trucks, like the old 61 or the 21 or the. Did you have a favorite?
No, I'm just glad to see which one showed up and see. No, I didn't have any favorite trucks per se. I let those guys kind of handle that. And it was always interesting trying to remember where everything on the truck was. That was the biggest challenge for me. In which compartment and what was where, the differences between the truck. Most of that kind of got simplified at the end. Everybody pretty much had the same standard package, and so you knew everything was at. Not really any favorite trucks.
Okay, how many, when you were involved with the fire department, how many were on there?
I guess when I first joined, it was just the original 5-member crews, or maybe it was 4-member crews back then. Pete was the chief, and I think Doug was probably the assistant chief or the captain or whatever. Well, he was assistant chief, I guess. Then you had a captain, 3 firefighters, I guess, under at that time, or maybe 4 on the shift. But it was the original ABC shifts, as they used to call them, through that. And Ron Wilson was the captain. Gosh, I can't even remember who the other 2.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe Benson was the other
Jeff
captain.
Warren,
Jeff might have been the other one back then. It's probably those 3, because they were still at the town hall then, and still sleeping upstairs in the town hall at that point in time on the 2nd floor beside the administration office. One big room. So.
What about, let's see, some of the guys have shared some funny moments and some funny stories. Or you got anything that was funny or stuck out, or because I know they told about playing jokes on each other and on people.
Oh, yeah, they love to play jokes on each other, and PR was probably one of the worst ones to try to instigate it, and then you get it started and kind of walk off and be laughing the whole kind of time. But it was always fun with those guys getting after each other and playing tricks on each other. And used to kid Joe about his feet that stank so bad.
No, that I can verify that.
Yeah, and that's the truth. It was sort of like, you remember the old dog that always pawed at his nose. That was kind of the way if Joe ever took his shoes off, you'd be pawing at your nose.
When the man puts them outside in the hall and he goes in the bedroom, it's bad.
Those were bad. I think PR played a trick on me. I guess I was probably fairly new to both the town and the fire department. Well, it had to be in the 90s somewhere. I was over on Cedar Street, and I was still cleaning some of the stuff from the house that we bought. Had a bunch of old wood and stuff, and I was burning in the backyard. Well, PR sent over, at that time, Greg Parsons, who was on the police department, who's now a captain with the fire department. He sent him over there to ask me where my permit was. And of course, what I had done, I called up the fire department and said, do I need a permit? I'm going to be burning some stuff over here. And they, of course, said, oh, no, you don't need anything. Just go ahead and do it. So PR gets Greg to go over there, and Greg hops out of the car in its official manner and asked me where my permit is. And I said, well, I called the fire department and, let them know I was going to be doing what they said. Didn't really need a permit. No, you got to have a permit. You got to have a permit. You work for the town. You got to have a permit. So he was just, and he's like, I can write you a ticket, and Greg can play straight face better than anybody that I've ever seen without cracking a smile. And I was just shaking my head and say, well, you gotta do what you gotta do kind of stuff. Then he kind of busted out laughing. So that was one that they kind of got on me and through that. And I can remember they used to keep mouse traps around the fire department sometimes to catch mouse. And Chuck Lee was over there, and I remember picking up they had a door going into where the day room was and the kitchen was back there. I remember picking up one of those mouse traps and kind of walked in the door and dropped it in Chuck's lap, and I thought he was going to go through the ceiling. They used to love to play tricks. I think they paid Bobby Compton. They were going to give him $10 if he could eat a jalapeno or a habanero pepper or something like that. Well, he ate the pepper and then commenced eating a stick of butter on top of that just to try to kill the taste out of it. But Bobby, was famous for his eating ability.
It still is.
And still is. Keeping that, so that was always, he was always.
That's funny.
Doing something like that, but they were.
Well, what about the fire department today? I mean, how you've seen it kind of grow and change and everything. How is it? I mean, we're almost 80 people now, and
yeah, I mean it has really grown. I think professionalism in the department has grown. There's a lot more opportunity for the guys now than there ever has been. Whenever the fire department had the one station and basically 3 shifts, you had to wait for somebody to retire, which was a long ways off back then, to do that or die, or very few of them left.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think it's a lot more, and of course it's a lot more involved. There's a lot more emphasis, as there always was, on fire education and building codes. Fire marshal inspections and all those things that are now required, that they're required to do. So I think by and large the town has fared well and got a lot safer because of it. Spend a lot less time fighting actual fires now than probably it did years ago, which is probably normal due to education of people, fire, sprinklers, as well as smoke detectors and all those kind of things that have been instituted. The child safety seat thing, a great other service that they provide, and run a lot of medical calls now that they didn't do. At one time they were, the fire department had the ambulance service and ran ambulance service, and then we got out of it and the county took it over. And some of the guys that were at the ambulance service went to the county and worked, and some of them came back over time. But it seems to be more push now to back to your EMT, because at one time they were all trying to get their EMTDs or paramedic, or one step below paramedic certification, I guess. Intermediate kind of stuff. And then, so now we're almost coming for a full circle back to that, run a lot of medical calls, which is good for the community, a lot of level of service provided.
yeah.
Would you do all this over again?
Yeah, I'd have probably started earlier to do it, but I mean and the difficult thing for me as a volunteer, it always felt. I mean, everybody was always really kind and would help me out, and I was one of the few, or one of the original, or one of the first, I guess, when the certification process first started for firefighting. I went through that with most of the guys on the ship, because I was working at the town and they were doing the classes. I could attend the classes, and thank God for Ron and Joe and PR and all those who kind of helped me through some of that stuff to do that. So I was one of the first volunteers that actually became certified. So there's a lot more training, a lot more technical stuff. Most of the guys now have their associate degree or working on their associate degree, or some have their 4-year degree. So it's a lot more professional, I guess, is the word I'm looking for, than probably what it was back then. Not that the guys didn't treat everything with respect and do the job like they were known to do, but if they went to a fire and there was just 2 of them, they pulled the hose off the truck, they hit the door. They didn't really much care. Now there's a lot more procedures and backup and a lot more concern over safety and those kind of things. Not so much, it's kind of a different perspective when you look at it from some of the movies that you see, like Backdraft and all those kind of things, because you always wonder where the smoke is and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Rescue Me and all those guys who do some of that, they must blow the smoke out when those guys are in there doing some of that stuff.
Well, coming from the town perspective as well, do you think now that, do you think the town was more supportive then or now, or do you think how do you feel the town has always?
Honestly, I think the town has always been supportive of the fire service, and I think they're even more supportive, or I don't know if they're more supportive, but they're as supportive as the previous boards. But here again, it's a totally different operation. It's a lot of, if you open up a station, which is going to be anywhere probably from $3 million upwards, then you buy a couple trucks, which are going to be, $300,000 to $500,000 or more, depending on if it's a ladder truck or something like that. So there's a large capital investment, but that's the easy part is those two things. It's when you put on those 15 firefighters, actually 15 firefighters per station, that costs you over $1 million probably a year. Which is about 3 cents on the current tax rate to do that. So it's a big decision, but I think the board's very supportive. Of course, we're in sort of a down economy now, so we have been able to put off some of what we had perceived as some immediate needs for traditional fire service in different areas that were growing with the town. Pretty soon it'll turn and we'll be back in the same boat, and I think we'll be seeing stations, probably 2 more stations within a few times, a few years. Sooner the better. Most of them would probably say.
Well, we've asked this too of all the guys. For what would you want the, say, future fire departments of Mooresville to know about the old fire department, and what would you want to pass on to them as part of? A lot of said the history, know the history and all that, but what would you?
Well, I think that the history is important because there were a lot of guys who gave a lot of themselves back in the 50s and even before then to do that, and didn't have the tools that you've got now to protect you and do those kind of things. Of course, they probably didn't know all the bad things that were really associated with it back then, but I think history is important, and I think if they remember some of the guys who gave a lot to that, the early chiefs, Pete and Doug, and even Wes, that has taken it to the next level with the growth of the town. And I think it's important that they are reminded of their history and that, and they all, parts of the movies and those kind of things about the brotherhood kind of thing is really true. I mean, everybody really cares about it. They may rag themselves to death, and you think this guy really doesn't like this guy, but if that guy goes down or if something happens, they're going to be there backing each other up, and I think that's always going to be continuing to do that kind of thing. And I'll always be grateful for my time that I did that, and the people that like Ron and Joe and Doug and all that really supported me when they said go get X, and I didn't know what X was or where it was at, much less what I was supposed to do with it. But I think and the volunteers served a purpose at the time that they served, and I think there were a lot of those guys that spent more years than I did doing it, but they they gave a lot of their time and efforts and leaving their families and jobs, in the middle to go do a lot of that volunteer work and not really get paid for any of it. So I hope they don't forget their sacrifices too. Luckily, we're in a growing community and we don't have to depend on volunteers. All the volunteers are nice and nice backup, so to speak. But in my later years, we really weren't needed that much because there's a lot more protocol, a lot more backup coming, and a lot of additional staff there to do that kind of stuff. So don't forget their history. Don't forget the people who gave their time and service.
Well, now talking about the volunteers, just sort of, do you feel like the fire department is, I mean, now they don't have volunteers, have they lost something by that, or?
I don't really think they've lost anything. I think it's just part of the history, and if you probably went down the list of the current guys that are out there, most of probably over 50% of them still volunteer and wherever they're living, if it's Troutman or out in the county or adjacent community, those kind of things, they're still out there volunteering. But it's just, it has evolved so much that it's just better. The community's better served by paid full time.
Yeah. Paid people.
Yeah.
You got anything?
Always the oyster eats.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
You've always enjoyed them, I'm sure.
I always enjoyed eating. You can tell by my girlish figure that I enjoy eating.
The monthly meetings, y'all always eat on them. I wasn't, there. So that was
I
quick.
remember eating at the monthly meetings.
Well, I mean a few, but I wasn't.
Well, we always had, it was always the Christmas party and
The steaks all
the
the time.
steak, you had to bring your silverware, but you always got your.
That's right. That's right. They bring everything else was there, but you had to bring your own
They had to
silverware.
bring your own silverware. They cooked the steak, the potato, and all that kind of stuff. And God bless Ralph Clonger, he would beat the community up for stuff. And pity the poor guy who always wanted the 50-pound bag of flour for Bay State. They'd take that thing home. Or the 50-pound bag of potatoes or whatever Ralph had gotten.
Or pity the fool that would say no to Ralph.
Oh, yeah.
Because he would keep on
He
going.
persisted.
Yeah.
He was persistent. So, those are always fun to go to, the Christmas parties.
Well, thank goodness the town still allows us to have the oysters.
Oh, yeah. I think the oyster
everything.
thing is a good part of the history.
Hopefully
of the fire
that'll
department.
continue this year, hopefully.
Absolutely. I'm not much on oyster stew, but I sure love fried oysters, shrimp, and everything else. But.
Yeah, the fire department had a big community involvement. I mean, they were out there in the community a lot originally.
Yeah, parade day, oyster stew, that was their big thing. The JCs, when they did the parade, they always had this cook steaks and do all that kind of stuff, but everybody would always start off with the oyster stew and then go down there. That's a good tradition that luckily keeps on. God bless Phil for doing it for all those years.
Mm-hmm.
How luckily.
It's a lot of work because I've been a part of that.
That's right. How luckily Chuck Lee and a few others come in there.
Yeah.
Well,
Carry on the tradition.
yeah. Well, that leads to another question I thought about. Does the community still? Do you still get the community? Feel like you get the community support like you used to with, coming to the. Giving thanks for the meals and all that. Do you think the community still supports?
Yeah, I think anytime the fire department would ask for anything, they would probably get a lot of community support with that. I don't think that's changed in the least. The community's changed a lot, so you don't get a lot of community support for other things because there's a lot of folks who move the community that don't, they live here and they maybe work someplace else, so they're gone early and come home late and probably never have crossed the interstate to come to downtown Mooresville or this side of town or anything else. But I think over time that'll change and hopefully we can get back some of that community spirit.
I'm pretty.
What did you have wrote down?
Yeah.
That was about everything on the list. One of the other moments was at one time we used to do a police and fire department softball game. But I don't think the police ever showed up.
Yeah.
It was rare.
Those few times it might have one policeman show up.
Do that. And then I guess the fire department still has a softball team to play.
Yeah, playing this year. They ain't doing too well, but I think they're playing.
Good. So those are always good fun things to do.
That is fun.
So that was pretty much it.
But you're ready for the 100 years next year?
I'm ready for the 100 years. Yeah.
That's a big step,
That's a big. it is a big
I hope
step.
everything goes real well. I think everything's gonna turn out. You go get your picture taken?
I did.
Okay.
Got my picture, man.
Yeah, I think 100 years is going to be it's going to be very good. I think it's going to be a big milestone for it. And there's not many departments in the town that can claim 100 years.
No.
There's not many. There's only about 3 or 4 that really can. So that's a major milestone for the town and for the department. All right.
Yeah.
And everything. I've been asking this, trying to piece it down. How did the oysters do and the fire department's involvement in the parade all get going? Did anybody ever?
I have no idea.
Nobody has been able to say so yet. How that all started?
We
and how
forgot to ask Henry that.
Yeah.
Henry would probably be the closest one to know.
Ruth might know, or Wimp, or somebody like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. It's
Well,
a
we have a
wonderful.
great time doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of work, but it's a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful.
We put several hundred people through there during that time after the parade.
Okay. So that's a good thing, but it's be interesting to find out how it all got going.
Bet you Henry can tell some stories, that's for sure.
Tell you what. You got anything? No?
I think so.
I think he was retired when I started.
No,
20
true.
years ago.
Yeah.
Or longer.
Well.
Do you think of anything else? Sticks out in your mind?
Oh,
I
okay.
might be like Henry and call you back, but probably not.
Email me.
Yeah. Email you.
Put it in words. All right, well, I'll